Hello, fellow nerds and comic book fans and superhero fans and all that stuff. I just want to make a message as a plea to the community because July is going to be insane. We have a Superman movie. It is the first big movie in an enormous universe that potentially could be very promising, could tell a lot of really cool stories, and just the movie itself could be great and exciting. It seems like James Gunn is making a lot of big choices and doing things that seem very directly inspired by comics, and this is maybe a test to see if that works. So far, I think it looks really cool. So we've got that on one hand. On the other hand, Marvel is working on Fantastic Four First Steps, which is the fourth theatrically released Fantastic Four movie, fifth if you count the Roger Corman one that was not theatrically released. So why would you count that for what I just said? But it is a completely new take on these characters in a setting that is completely different, and maybe is going to finally be the Fantastic Four movie that fully works. And that's not to say the ones from the 2000s, the Tim Story ones, are bad, but they were not the crowd-pleasing hit that a lot of us comic fans know the Fantastic Four can be, because they are exciting. They are an interesting dynamic. This family dynamic is something that outside of the Incredibles and stuff doesn't get a lot of representation in superhero media. So it is new ground for Marvel to tread. On top of that, it has an insane cast of actors that everyone loves. And it seems like these characters are going to be the foundation for, if not the immediate future of Marvel, with Doomsday and Secret Wars and the Fantastic Four, obviously, because of their relationship to Doctor Doom playing a big role in that. But even beyond that, the future of the MCU seems like the Fantastic Four are probably going to play a very large role in that. So we have both of these things happening. There's also a Jurassic World movie or something, but I don't know. I like them. I watch them. They've gotten worse. Jurassic Park 1 came out when I was young, and it was the most amazing movie, and it continues to be one of the most amazing movies ever made. And they've made sequel after sequel after sequel, and every one is worse than the last one. So the trend currently is down, but then also maybe, it's as low as it can possibly get. So maybe this next one's going to be surprisingly good. Who knows? But this summer, July specifically, is going to be big. And I just want to make a plea to all the fans out there from all of the different fandoms. This is also kind of true of the DC EU fans who want to sabotage Superman somehow. Although I don't think you're probably going to listen to this, but mostly for people who are excited for Superman, excited for Fantastic Four, or excited for both. Let's not fight. Let's be cool. Just this one time. Because this is something that, in my lifetime, I have seen happen. We have not seen it in a while, though. This Marvel v DC, who's gonna win, which one is better competition thing. I think it's because the DCEU has always been sort of a misfire. Even when it was working, it was only really working for one or two movies in a row, and none of those appealed to all of the fans, so it was always just really shaky. The CW stuff was kind of fun, but that couldn't stack up to what Marvel was doing at the time, which was Daredevil, which is great and continues to be great. And then the DCEU was not anywhere near as consistent and as popular as the MCU. Not to say it was bad, but we've been living through, for the last 17 years or whatever, Marvel supremacy. There have been outliers, and obviously some DC stuff has been great. The comics have been all over the place. The video games have been all over the place. But in terms of big media, Marvel was on top. And it set up this dynamic where the Marvel fans were, were crushing it, and the DC fans are scrappy underdogs. And that's fun. That was not really the case in the 2000s. I would say The Dark Knight was the defining superhero movie of the 2000s. And that's a decade that Spider-Man and X-Men came out in. But I still think Dark Knight really took over the public consciousness, even if it didn't make more money than those other movies. That's, I would say, as close as DC got to fully winning and taking over everything. That's the same year that Iron Man came out. So you could kind of see the tide shifting. But I think because of Batman Begins, the Superman movies, which were popular, the Batman movies with Michael Keaton, DC used to be the really consistent one. Now Spider-Man and X-Men were really big in the 2000s, so they did challenge DC. And that was the thing at the time, looking at 2008 or even 2012, you had Dark Knight Rises coming out against Avengers. Those are both humongous movies. And there was a little bit of I hope the Marvel one wins. I hope it can topple this Goliath, this thing that is following The Dark Knight, and it can be a humongous success because the experiment of the Avengers was something new and something so exciting. Bringing all of these characters together in one movie had never been done. So I think there was a little bit of Marvel, we're the underdog. At the same time, Marvel was dominating in space. This is when DC was putting out the Green Lantern movie. So besides these Batman movies by Chris Nolan, there wasn't a whole lot. But these Batman movies felt very artistic, very serious in a way that the Marvel Cinematic Universe maybe did not. And it gave the DC Comics fans a bit of a scrappy underdog thing of like, they're the big studio, but we're making the real art, the stuff that matters. And I'm not going to say either of those groups are correct or whatever. That's just how we experience media, how we think about it. But this right now, July of 2025, I would say is the first time in a very long time that it feels like both fandoms feel like they're the underdog again. Marvel, because they're trying to launch Fantastic Four, a project that has been very difficult in the past, even when it has been somewhat successful, and they're on what Deadpool, in a very, popular and well-performing movie, described as a bit of a low point, even coming off of Thunderbolts, a movie that I think was really good and like made a decent amount of money, but did not make its budget back. I wouldn't say it was like a flop. Well, I'm making a video about that, so we'll talk about that more. So that's why Marvel fans feel like underdogs. DC fans feel like underdogs because, like, oh my god, we're about to start doing our MCU thing, and it's by James Gunn, who's great and who has made great stuff, but it is still like Superman, a character that we have also struggled with as a fan base, and like media has struggled with making a Superman movie that makes him feel relatable. It doesn't make him feel like a god. It makes him feel corny in the ways that he's supposed to feel corny, and as a Lex Luthor who's good, like all these things that have been historically difficult. And so much is riding on this Superman movie, because if it fails, and I'm sure it could, David Zaslav feels like maybe the most likely person in all of Hollywood to pull that plug, say like, no more DC stuff. This is a gamble. We took a risk, but this isn't worth it. And I can see a world where both these movies stink. I can see a world where Fantastic Four just isn't interesting. Maybe there is something at the heart of the Fantastic Four that makes them not work in a movie. I don't know what it is, but maybe that's true. And also maybe there's like reshoots or studio tampering or whatever, all the usual Marvel stuff. And then the other side, maybe the Superman movie is so out there and so weird and does things that are so strange with the structure, and there's so many different villains and fights, it becomes hard for a lot of audience members to grab onto. So maybe like, here's my prediction. Predictions don't matter. That's not what this is. But let's say Fantastic Four, 82% on Rotten Tomatoes. It is good, but kind of like Thunderbolts, not the amazing success it needed to be. I still think it makes money because it's Fantastic Four, and it's got Galactus, and it's got all these big stars in it. And I think it still is a success, but I think there's a world where it is not a humongous success. Superman, I am very worried about, and I think there's a chance it is great, but maybe audiences aren't ready for it completely. And I think that one could end up in like a 79 on Rotten Tomatoes. That one I think could make money in spite of that, because they are doing a great job marketing it. And Superman as a brand is just humongous. Like that translates overseas in a way that Fantastic Four and like nothing else really on planet Earth does. Like Superman is the most significant pop culture figure of the 20th century. So the idea that just a Superman movie is coming out makes people excited and like means something to people who have never even heard of the Fantastic Four. That's like maybe setting some realistic expectations for what could happen. But what I'm more interested in, nerds, and I count myself among you nerds, is like, let's not fight. This doesn't need to be a Marvel versus DC thing. I know they are the big two, and that is what they are called in the industry. So like, there's no, Coke and Pepsi, I guess, are the same thing, but Marvel and DC are like humongous media enterprises with so many popular characters that so many people love and have really strong feelings about, connections to, that like it becomes very personal in a way that I don't think it does for Coke and Pepsi. It feels personal. You want the X-Men to win because you love the X-Men, you love the comics, and you want that movie to succeed. Or you want a Green Lantern movie to succeed because you've read those comics for your whole life and you hated that Ryan Reynolds movie, but you know there's something there and you get excited about it and you tell people about it. And then when it fails, they're like, oh, sorry about that Green Lantern movie. And you kind of feel like, oh man, this sucks. How can you not connect it in some way to yourself? Because these are the characters and the stories that like made us who we are, especially because a lot of this media is, the stuff that kids are introduced to. You see Superman cartoons, you see Fantastic Four cartoons, and you just go, oh, these guys are great. And you know what? They're examples of morality, how to be a good father, mother, brother, uncle, whatever. So how can you not feel connected to that? I know there's some people that say, oh, it's just a movie. Well, yeah, but if it was just a movie, then none of this would matter, right? The movies, even the ones that are big cartoon popcorn movies, they have to, at like the minimum, inspire some feelings in us. Like maybe it's not as significant as the feelings that are inspired by like, I don't know, Tar, but they are feelings. And because of those feelings, because of how connected we are to those characters, and because of the idea of the big two, which one's going to win, and I guarantee like Variety and Hollywood Reporter are going to be saying things like, will Marvel win the year? Did DC win the year? There will be articles about that. Ignore it. It is pointless nonsense. Because right now, comic book movies could be in a great place. We could have 2 humongous hits coming out of the year, and we want 2 humongous hits coming out of the year. Because I think if one of them isn't a hit, the narrative coming out of the year will be our comic book movie's kind of over, and I think that hurts everybody. So beyond the fact that we don't need to pick teams, like there's no reason to do that, but I think the framing of this as a conflict between Marvel and DC, and Marvel fans and DC fans, which obviously that's how you get clicks and views and things like that, that is, if we let it, going to be bad. Now, I am not saying if you are excited about the DC one and not the Marvel one, or if you're excited about the Marvel one and not the DC one, don't get excited about you don't have to be excited for both, and I don't even think you have to like both. This isn't me saying, hey, Superman fans, do us a solid and pretend you like Fantastic Four. All I'm saying is we don't need to get out there and, you know, compare the different styles of the movie, the aesthetics of the movie, the actors, the costumes, the things that comic book fans and listicles, I'm sure many of them made by AI now, will want to compare because it's an easy thing. And I'm not going to pretend I don't get hooked by that bait. But all I'm saying is I just want fans of one to not pick fights with fans of the other. And this is not me saying that one group is doing that more than the other. I honestly think it's equal. We both need to come together in this moment to fend off the Snyder fans who are going to review bomb the Superman movie no matter what, and other stuff too, and support each other's movies, because Jurassic World is going to make more money than both of these movies because it's a Jurassic Park movie, and even the bad ones make $1 billion. In fact, the worst one made $1 billion worldwide, the one that was mostly about bugs or something. I don't know. I've watched it. I definitely watched it. It was not good because, as Al Pacino said in the classic Any Given Sunday, 1999, about football, in a speech that I would say is one of the great speeches in all of movies. Either we heal now as a team of comic book movie fans, or we will die. The universes will collapse as individuals. So I hope you have an amazing, kind, thoughtful summer, specifically July. I hope whatever movie you want to be good is good, and I hope the other one's good too, because it's good for all of us. And you know what else is good? Nebula. I would be surprised if you have not heard of Nebula by now. It is a subscription streaming service that I and a bunch of YouTubers created back years ago, not that long ago, but like it's been around for a little while. The goal was we wanted an ecosystem where we could exist outside of the algorithm, so we wouldn't have to cater to views and stuff like that. We'd make the videos that we wanted to make. And at the same time, we wanted to have space to make original projects with bigger budgets, and we have some really cool ones coming out. Obviously, there's stuff like Jetlag, which is hugely popular, and I don't need to explain probably what Jetlag is to you. There's also Abolish Everything, which I really enjoy. Patrick Willems has a short film coming out soon called The Dinner Plan. Maggie Mayfish has a series coming out soon called Amy's Dead End Dream House, which, from what I have seen, seems like a take on like a Pee-wee's Playhouse, one of those shows where like the furniture talks to you, but with a more contemporary twist. And I think Maggie and her team are really smart and funny. I cannot wait to see this show. And then one of the biggest things we have coming up is a show we're working on called Subliminal. It's an anthology. It's very dramatic in the vein of things like The Twilight Zone, but instead of being based around some funky science fiction concept or whatever, this is all just based on complicated human relationships. A bunch of cool YouTubers are writing and directing episodes of this. We have actual actors doing this work. This is going to be really exciting. And one of the episodes, one that is going to be directed by Patrick Willems, is written by me. The episode is called Power Trip. I, again, don't want to spoil it because just when it comes out, you watch it and you'll love it. This is really my first like Nebula original thing, so I'm very excited about it. I've been writing it for a little while. If you're like, why is some of the video frequency slowed down a little bit? But I'm done with it, so that's the best part. You know, I've written it, so there it is. It's there. So it is up to Patrick and our production team to put this episode together. I think it is going to be really cool, and you're going to be able to watch that exclusively on Nebula. You can also watch all of my videos early and ad-free, including Nando Cut videos, which go up maybe a couple hours before they go live on YouTube. But still, that's early. You're seeing it before anybody else. And a yearly subscription to Nebula is a steal already at $5 a month or $60 a year. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/the The Nando Cut, name of the channel. You can get a year of Nebula for just $3 a month. It is a great deal. It's a great way to see all my videos. There's a bunch of other creators on Nebula who you definitely already like, and there's a bunch of others that we're bringing on as, you know, time goes on. Who knows when you're watching this video? Check out Nebula. There will be people that are not on there when I'm recording it. I mean, it's some pretty cool ones, and I'm excited they're going to be part of Nebula, and we're always growing. So anyway, that is my pitch for Nebula. So watch my videos early and ad-free, and watch Subliminal, specifically my episode and all the other episodes, when they are released in the future. I do not know exactly when, but we're working on it right now, and I'm sure we will have more updates. So follow me on, you know, Twitter and all that stuff. I'm Nando V Movies all over the internet, and you will see updates from me. That's all I got. Stay safe. See you next time.